is on Temur Rhinos versus Nova here on Merfolk. Nova is undefeated with Merfolk today, and Merfolk is a deck that we know have a lot of fans in the chat, and I think, Julian, secretly pretty well positioned against a lot of the top decks. It's sort of just the other decks in the format that Merfolk really struggles with.
So you would think that Nova's in a perfect position now, right? Whenever that's the case, people will be like, oh, the first rounds are going to be hard, but then I'm going to play against all the established decks, which Nova certainly is doing here against Connor. So Merfolk always been around in Modern, rarely ever being like the go-to deck. But from what I've gathered, most people who play Merfolk in Modern, they know what they're doing. They know most of the matchups in and out. And I would guess Nova wouldn't be too different from that.
Yeah, no, I don't think she's going to be too different from that. She probably has played this deck a lot, especially to be 4-0 in the tournament. You don't really stumble into these things with Merfolk. Merfolk often considered to be a little bit of a lower power deck because it is really reliant just on creatures and minor disruption. However, that disruption is often very good in a lot of matchups. You see a lot of Merfolk players will do things like main deck Chalice of the Void, which is very good against Rhinos, very good against Living In. Nova looks like she is not actually main decking her Chalice of the Voids this weekend, but has some cards like Force of Negation that give you a lot of game against these Cascade decks and other things like that. We have Mistcaller in the main deck for Nova here. So she is actually going to be able to stop things like Indomitable Creativity and other decks along that nature. You know, if you select a company or Yawgmoth example, as we do see a turn 1 Rhino suspended.
Yeah, you also got Hexcatcher going on, so we might be able to like text the Rhino deck so much that it won't be able to kill us. And other than that, you mentioned, right, we were going to have like a bunch of lords, a bit of the disruption, like the Tide Shapers. How much of a difference are those making by basically turning other lands into islands, which not every deck is going to be able to use? We already mentioned, like last round, Yawgmoth, we learned that the deck can sometimes struggle with mana.
Yeah, like we learned last round, mana can be really tight here. And Connor doesn't have a green land now, does have the mountain to Dead Gone the Mistcaller, so it's out of the way here. But yeah, that could have been huge. You know, if Connor didn't have Dead Gone, it might have been a situation where Connor needed to fetch Shock a little more in order to get his spells cast. And that's going to add up, so Nova can actually end up killing Connor with those little incidental damages. As Nova just passes the turn here.
Oh no, two mana or 3 mana play. So best case scenario for Nova is she's just sitting on, okay, never mind. There actually is a creature. I was going to say maybe she's sitting on a bunch of interaction. There's only so much really in her deck. There's the 3 Force of Negations. But that one is trying to figure this out. Is this a Hexcatcher? Yeah, that's a Hexcatcher.
Yeah, and you're seeing Connor cascade with his Violent Outburst in response to Nova there. This way, Nova can't sacrifice to counter the Rhinos, and Connor's going to get 2 4/4 in play.
Yeah, technically, you know, when you think about it, Merfolk doesn't necessarily need to be super afraid of the 2 Rhinos if you got a couple of Lords going, but no one needs to get ideally like 2 Lords down on this turn. That's the first one, and we'll see. There's even like a world because Connor is still sitting on that island, right? Of the Tide Shapper. Well, he's got an island anyway, the breeding pool, where we might be able to land walk Connor out. Merfolk very much known for sometimes just like exploding out of nowhere and killing you with an Alpha Strike.
Yeah, and Connor has more Rhinos coming next turn. So Nova is going to need something to sort of stem this bleeding. And yeah, we're not seeing... I thought we maybe would see a Dismember or something possible, but another Violent Outburst to push a little extra damage and get more Rhinos.
Here's a take 10. Add 4 more power to the board. Yeah, might just be too fast. Like at this point, even if you get a couple of Lords going, it's probably not going to be enough.
100%. As we do see more Rhinos. Those are Steven Dykman's winning tokens. We talked about these earlier. They are technically pilots, but those are big old Rhinos. So Dykman sort of, you know, really got a lot of equity as Nova's going to just pick up her card. She's dead. Can't win from this position. And understandable, you know, this is sort of the brutal efficiency of the Rhino stack.
Yeah, just way too fast. And that's part of why the deck seems so good to me looking at it from the outside every time I see it on the battlefield. Just like when your plan A, right, is so powerful and so quick, sometimes you just like put it through. And when your opponent even slightly struggles, like Nova kind of did by not like really presenting all that much in the early game, you just get there. Doesn't matter. Like the trample especially is such a big deal.
Yeah. Very much reminds me of Delver from Legacy, kind of like the early Happer Temper ones, where you just kind of like trade off resources. I got some damage. It doesn't matter. I kill you before it matters. So
that's a very good comparison.
Nova here with the sideboard has only a couple cards. Like I mentioned before, I felt like this deck would be kind of well positioned against Rhinos. Typically because Chalice of the Void's in the main deck, and that's like a huge aspect of the match. But Nova's sort of foregoing all the Chalices. I don't know if that's some new Merfolk tech, but we still have a couple cards that are pretty good. Flusterstorm, essentially going to be like a super spell pierce in this matchup. We already have 3 spell pierces. I'm sorry, 1 spell pierce and 3 Force of Negations in the main deck as protection. Now we're going up to 3 spell pierce like effects with Flusterstorm. And then we have Harbinger of the Tides. That is the 2/2 for 2 that you can flash in and to unsummon a tapped creature. So that's going to be really good against Rhinos, right? Those actually just die. So that's going to be good there. Also against the Murktide Regent half of the deck.
Yeah, the Silver Gill Adepts in the sideboard actually surprised me. Have you seen that in Merfolk? Usually like, you see them in the main deck?
Yeah, my understanding is it is a new thing that some Merfolk players are trying, or putting them in the sideboard and just going more in on like lords and various utility creatures in the main deck. And then bring in the Silver Gill Adepts in matchups where you kind of want to have that 2-for-1 body. So I think that's what's going on here. I think that's how we made room for like this Mistcaller in our main deck. Because you notice we still have 1 Silver Gill Adept in the main. So we're not foregoing it completely. I think we just wanted to make room for cards like Mistcaller and Spreading Seas that are very, very strong against the Creativity deck, because the Creativity deck needs to have 3 other mountains for the dwarf to enter the battlefield. So turning those off between, your Tide Shaper, your Tide Shapers and your Spreading Seas can really be impactful.
So before we go to Connor's deck, I was wondering, like, from everything we see here in the sideboard, like the Harbinger you already mentioned, okay, the Flusterstorms as well. I was gonna say there's not too much that we can bring in here. And when that's the point, I start wondering, what is my opponent gonna bring in against me? And then I reevaluate my sideboard cards. Is there anything that you see in our sideboard where you feel like Connor might bring this in against her that we then try to next level?
Yeah, we might see subtlety. There might be some amount of Furies from Connor. There might be the Murktide Regent. So subtlety could be something. We can hop over to Connor's sideboard and we'll think about what Nova had here, sort of the way we like to do it in coaching as well. Looking at Connor's sideboard, pretty stock, all things considered. We have the 2 Furies. Those look really strong in this matchup. I imagine Connor's going to bring in Boseiju because Chalice of the Void is a commonly played card in Merfolk. In this matchup, it's only going to hit the Aether Vials and the lands. But, Connor doesn't know that, and I imagine that card will come in just because of how commonly played Chalice of the Void is.
Yeah, there's really not all too much coming in. Yeah, I guess the Furies you already mentioned, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so I guess from Nova's side, she might bring in subtlety just to counter these 4 Furies.
It doesn't really feel all that great, honestly, but we will see. Merfolk can take out a bunch of stuff, right? You can always like cut some of the lords. On the other hand, I'm curious to see whether Nova is actually going to go for the plan of hopefully from her side trying to amass enough lords to outgrow the Rhinos. Because at that point, like, it's back to Connor, right? But Connor needs to make something happen. We start with the first lord. You got 8. Actually, do we have like basically 12 lords if you count the Hex Catcher as well? Yeah, of course we do.
Yeah.
That's 12 lords then.
We have a lot of lords.
Look, we've got more lords than Westeros, I guess.
Yeah, you think it's Sunday with the amount of lords we have in Nova's deck. Also, Nova's got my favorite basic island. So at least I would say non-APAC island. If you're trying to have some style on a budget, I think Nova has the best island. So.
Oh, okay, interesting. Never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you see Tide Shaper here?
Which one is this? Is this like an APAC land or something? No,
that land is a Rebecca Guay F&M promo series land. It's very cheap, but it's very good looking.
Okay.
Yes.
And Nova is so cool. Nova just like wants everybody else to have islands as well. Like, imagine if you used I don't know, Spreading Seas or something, and you used like a token or something. It's like a copy of it, and you just like put it on top of the opponent's lands. Like, see, I want you to have nice lands as well.
That would be very funny. You just have like Apex or whatever, or gurus, and you just like hand them over to people. Like, here you go, figured out. So do you see an animated Mutavault and just a pass back?
It's not a great sign here, right? Like, if that's the best you can do on your third turn, somewhat scared for Nova. Like, I mean, on the other hand, she could be sitting in a ton of interaction. You already mentioned the Flusterstorms, which is up here.
I was gonna say,
Connor can just relax.
Yeah, if you're Connor, you kind of know Nova has some Spell Pierce Flusterstorm card, because it'd be very ambitious of her to attack the Mutavault into your Violent Outburst mana, right? If you have anything else to do. So your hand probably is high on spells, low on creatures. Otherwise, it just makes more sense to, like, even play like a Silver Gull Adept or something, just get a body down and get more damage over time.
Can you imagine how Connor can just like sit back and relax? That's literally what he does. He suspends the Crashing Footfalls. And yeah, here we get another Merfolk Tide Shaper, actually.
Yep. Yeah, and it looks like we're going to target the Stomping Grounds.
Another island for you, sir.
Yeah.
Is that actually cutting? Yeah, I think that's cutting us off of green.
Yes.
On Connor's side of the board. Connor just sitting there like, oh, well, I don't know if this is really scary yet. Also interesting, cuts us off from at least one red. Connor not able to cast Fury anytime soon unless he finds like another land, another red source, unless he wants to evoke it, I guess. And we're just getting in, but only the Tide Shaper, not the Mutavault, because we want to add another Tide Shaper, but not kicked.
Yeah. Not kicked yet. Right? Oh, no, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I guess you had to kick beforehand. Interesting. I wonder if we have like an Aether Vial we're going to play off the Mutavault or something.
Or anything, is there anything for 2 mana that's like that's interaction that we couldn't cast with like 1 mana? Not really.
So
like, I guess a Dismember.
We play Remand. Oh, Dismember makes sense. Dismember plus Spell Pierce. Yeah. Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, gonna.
There's the Fury. Gonna clear the board, free up some of the mana. Oh, Connor's like, no, just kill both of those. Sure.
Yeah, and Voldaren Hexcatcher could have been a huge blowout there had Nova had it. As Connor is going to cascade in with the Shardless Agent and probably end up getting Spell Pierced here.
Could fight back if he has the Mystical Dispute, right?
Yeah, that's true. If Connor has Dispute, he can fight over a Force. Or a Spell Pierce or a Force, but could not beat a Flusterstorm. So if you're Nova, maybe that's the play.
Interestingly, if that wouldn't work. I was trying to come up with a different line. No, I was taking a good look. Connor's deck, is there anything interesting? How did you sideboard? Okay, got it. And this is where we probably see the Flusterstorm, right? Yeah, here it comes. Such a good card. Like when that card hit Modern, I felt like this Modern needed cards like this for a while. That's like when it was much more combo dominated.
Mm-hmm.
These days, I think not such a big card in the format anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it just like feels right to be in the format in the first place. Connor's shaking his head. Okay, not very happy apparently.
Yeah, it might be a situation
you still got your 2/2 here. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, and it's also a moment of what did you expect? Nova, like we talked about, right? Like the plays are pretty clear. Like Nova had something, This reminds me a lot of Adam Wasp Moses getting mad about the lands. It's like, what do you expect? What do you think is going to happen? Come on.
I'm going to leave the honor of trying to pronounce this card to you.
Oh, it's Slayloon.
Oh, that's okay. I'm going to trust you on that. Slayloon? Okay, here we go.
Yeah,
Slayloon.
I've heard official Wizards people call Slayloon, like on coverage. And so I'm going to either continue to make their mistake.
Probably the right play.
Yeah, whatever.
We're never gonna get to actually properly ask her. So Slayloon is indestructible as long as you control 2 other Merfolk. Not yet happening. I mean, there can sometimes be tricks where you animate your Mutavault to get that when your opponent doesn't see that. Other than that, you get to draw cards if you get to connect and give ward to all of your other Merfolk. So, Connor is like, not impressed. 6/6 dragon, pass.
Yeah, and Nova here attacking, saying, hey, would you like to block or not? And this is what we've seen from Slayloon is that Slayloon is great in these sort of like tempo we show. We've seen like blue prison decks in Modern where they sort of, play Chalice and Blood Moon and use Slayloon, as we're going to see a Dismember from Nova to try and shrink the Murktide. And then Connor was Force of Negation, pitching that Mystical Dispute that you sort of called out last turn. And now Nova in a bit of a hard place there.
Yeah, Nova, thus far, basically her deck has kind of done what it's supposed to do. We've been pretty heavy on the interaction, but overall those Tide Shapers have not been very impressive yet, right? Just like paying 2 mana for the 1/1 and somewhat disrupting Connor's mana has not been very efficient yet, especially in the face of like the Fury that's hit later on. Yeah, and Connor just like keeps doing what Connor does best, making big creatures. Yeah,
and this Slayloon stuck around more over Connor's face than it has in the game itself, as we are getting a trade here. As Nova falls to 8. We got 2 Rhinos. That's conveniently 8 power, Julian.
This is going to be a big problem. Like we can make some jump blockers. Okay, we get this one maybe back to hand. I mean, it's uncounterable. There's not too much Connor can really do about this, I guess.
Yeah, this is going to put it back to hand. It's awkward, too, because Nova's just chump blocking unless she can figure out some way to grow this outside of Rhino range.
I was going to say she needs some kind of, like, I don't know, True Name Nemesis. But, like, even the Trample, like, would get over that, so that wouldn't even do it. So this is... You probably need a couple of those Harbinger of Tides, like a couple more of those to try to get back into the game. Other than that... Once again, like the trample is so annoying. If you had a way to, you know, maybe string together something, stay alive, but you can't really, like at this point, basic math is working against you. You're drawing one card every turn, and you have to basically like give up 1 to 2 cards every turn. It's just like not gonna work unless you have Engineered Explosives, but that's not present in the sideboard.
Yeah, that would be the kind of card we need.
I guess you could have like Otawara, Soaring City to bounce one of the tokens.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna get Violent Outburst and trampled over for lethal. And that's gonna do it. Woo. Connor 5-0 right now in the Mundaline NRG here, sort of defending his Player of the Year title, trying to get there. I know he wants to get back to the championship. Hasn't had quite the finishes he did last year to sort of put him in that good position there. So we're gonna see what's going on with that. I believe we have a backup match this round, so we might be able to hop into that. But we'll figure out exactly what's going on there with you in a second. But yeah, the Rhino stack has been really impressive, like you talked about earlier, Julian. Sort of just applies a lot of pressure and puts you through the real test, regardless of the matchup's good or bad for you.
I wish I had brought my Rhino. I actually have a little tiny plush Rhino that I use for work sometimes. Next time we're going to do Modern, I'm going to have that here. And then
you can have it for tomorrow for Legacy, because the Legacy Rhino deck.
It's good. I call it out on my podcast. I call it out as one of the top 3 aggro decks of the format. That was like a month ago, but still, it's good.
Yeah, it's better than people think it is, for sure. It is an impressive deck. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see exactly how that goes out. Maybe tomorrow we'll have some Rhinos. You know, I'm gonna wake up in the morning, tune into YouTube there. So let's go to our backup match and let's see what's happening there. Because I remember we have a pretty sweet one going on here. We have Golgari Yawgmoth again versus Living End, Benjamin versus Logan.
Awesome. Benjamin on Yawgmoth again. Chat already requested we want to see more of that deck. From what I can gather this far, Benjamin did not train until 2 in the morning yesterday to get rid of the Blood Artist, because that one's still present in the stack. Of course, that's going to open up a couple of different lines for him that weren't available in the previous game. We're also playing 4 copies of Ignoble Hierarch, 3 copies of Delighted Halfling. Overall, still kind of like the same approach, right? We're going to just like overwhelm the opponent with our interaction, Strangleroot Geists and what have you. On the other side of the board, Logan trying to, what are we doing here? Living Ending. Yeah, that's one of the most straightforward ways to play Magic here.
Okay, so Benjamin has a 7-card hand, saw Botanical Sanctum, Soul Red Logan, said move to discard, discards while having lands in hand. Logan doesn't cycle. When the cleanup phase can't cycle. Benjamin mentally has demolished Logan in the first couple turns. Logan's got to crawl back from there. However, on board, Logan is very far ahead. And Benjamin here, I think his plan is, I'm going to just move to discard, and I'm going to put creatures in the graveyard. Logan here is going to cycle with the new Omnath and also the Trance. So, Julian, how many lands do you think Logan is playing this weekend?
How many lands? Well, I already know it, so that's actually kind of like cheating, I guess.
It is sort of cheating. Before this weekend, would you have guessed Logan's playing a whopping 16 lands, which is actually high for the current Hive Mind and Living End? Lots of Living End players are playing 14 to 15 going into this weekend. Logan with a conservative 16 lands.
I mean, I don't hate it. On the other hand, I've been one of the most vocal people about, you know, if you want to win the tournament, be greedy. If you want to like, quote unquote, just top 8, like be a little bit less greedy. Honestly, Mason, if I told you, like, I actually don't know. If you had asked me, like, how many lands are they playing, I would have trusted you on like 16, 17. I've actually seen a list earlier today as we were like looking at that list that played 19 lands in Living End.
Dang. Yeah, Doomwick in the chat here, also going to be doing commentary here for a second, said he was looking through the list, found a 13 land list. So yeah, this was the big get from the Lord of the Rings. And maybe we can pull this up real quick as we're moving to discard here. One of the 2 creatures we just cycled away. They have very weird names. Generous Int is sort of the one that they're all playing 4 of, and Oliphant is the other one. Those 2 creatures just say cycle for either a forest or a mountain, or a card with a land of that type. So you can get shock lands. So what a lot of players have done is they've trimmed a bunch of lands and just put a bunch of these in their deck. And now they have more explosive living ends early. And so what they're kind of doing is turn one, they sort of cycle for a land, and then they go cycle, and then play their creature. And now they have, 3 really big creatures consistently, as we do see Grief pitching living end.
I'm still so excited. Like my Benjamin just going straight up turn 1 to discard. It's like this is either like the most, like the craziest way to open the game or the most genius way. I wonder though, like if that's the way that we want to play the game, if Logan's just gonna be like, you know what, at some point I'm literally just gonna start hardcasting my stuff, because that's how it worked when I still played Living End like ages ago.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Also, Logan's stuff is just way better than Benjamin's right now in the graveyard. So like if Logan wants to, we might see just Living End, and I have a bunch of big creatures and you have Stranglerootgeist. Because there's all Benjamin here put Young Wolf into play to try and play around the Living End once again. So if the Living End does get cast, we have another creature in play.
Easy. From Benjamin's side of the board, you mentioned you already played the stack a lot. Like what are we looking to do here? Are we desperately digging for a sack outlet, or are we trying to combo before the Living End play can actually disrupt us?
So we're trying to combo or find our endurance, which is why we saw Logan go for the Grief there, to make sure there wasn't a main deck endurance in the way.
Oh, that makes sense. And now we're gonna get back all of our stuff. And I mean, as you mentioned, that's gonna heavily favor Logan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Logan's creatures, there's Grief, which is gonna take another card from Benjamin, right? Funny enough, though, Logan had to actually take a creature because there were only creatures left in Benjamin's deck. So the Living End is going to be a little less bad for Benjamin. He's going to have 4 creatures in play. They're all just kind of weak compared to Logan's. And then now this Grief is going to take another card. And then we're going to have the Oliphant and the Trant. And the Oliphant gives +2/+0 and trample to another creature, and is a trampler itself. So that's going to actually, there you go. Oliphant is like a real upgrade for this deck. Like, Trample is something that this deck kind of always wanted in a card, because your opponent can just chump block you to death and sometimes stabilize, like in this deck, right? Like the Stranglerootgeist gets in the way, chump blocks, right? Comes back, you Yawgmoth, you combo kill, you win. But now that's not the case.
Card. It's like a card that was literally created for Living End. Wizard must have been thinking about Living End when they were like, I mean, obviously they were not like making a card for Living End, but this must have been on the radar, and they were like, okay, we're kind of cool with this. And also flavor-wise, this is just way too cool. Like, I don't know. I didn't expect to love all of the Lord of the Rings stuff as much as I do, because I've never been like a big Lord of the Rings person, but now I'm very much into it.
I feel you there, yeah. It has been very surprising. Also not a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Worth noting, Logan's the graveyard's kind of at the top of our screen. That's all 3 Living Ends.
Okay. So this is what you get, basically?
Yeah, we're on hardcast duty for everything else for the remainder of the game.
So we don't, most importantly, also, we don't have like a reset button, right? We cannot like reset Benjamin's side of the board now, which I guess is already going to be hard in the first place, but now we certainly can't do it.
Yeah, and as we're going to see, a Grist off the top for Benjamin. That's huge. Using Delight Halfling, the spell can't be countered, so we can't even, Force of Negation it. Even, Grist is a creature on the stack, so it doesn't work anyways, but nothing can stop her.
Yeah, Logan sitting there trying to figure out what's going to happen, but I mean, not really much he can do here. Stranglerootgeist gonna come right back again, kill the big elephant. Is it an elephant? It must be an elephant.
It is an elephant.
It is like an elephant.
War elephant. Yeah.
Here we go. And I mean, now if with the trample gun, like we might be able to like jump block our way, I guess, into like using Grist often enough to get there. Is there anything on Logan's side of the board that actually has like some kind of evasion? That I guess Menace is kind of like that.
So Grief is menaced, right? And then all of Benjamin's creatures are -1/-0 due to the Waker of Waves. So if Logan attacks, we have to double block. Now, unfortunately, because we've already triggered Undying twice, we would be trading with the Grief, but you can't really like get a gang block going in order to kill something. You can also attack with Waker. So I think what's happening is we're sending 2 at face, 2 at Grist.
So that way we're basically guaranteeing that Grist gets knocked down here.
Yeah. And it looks like I'm a little surprised here. I thought Benjamin might try and fight for the Grist here and get some double blocks going, but looks like Benjamin's deciding, this isn't worth it. I need to sort of just buy time.
Maybe he's got another one.
That's true. On the top of his deck.
Oh yeah, he's got a bunch of lands in hands from what you can see. Here we go. You just slam it. Grist, next one coming up. Easy game.
Easy game.
Never didn't have it. There's the land.
Oh my gosh. Did we draw Yawg?
We did.
Oh my gosh, we drew Yawg. That is gotta be our best draw. And this is part of the reason why the Yawgmoth deck is so good. You just get to put things on board, and eventually you can start winning. And that can be really tough for some players. Logan does have main deck subtleties, but does he have one in hand?
Dude, I want the stack in my life so badly right now. I can understand why chat wanted this like for another round.
Yawgmoth's nice.
Such a cool design card. Like loving it. Protection from humans, flavor on top. Which like in Modern does come up, right?
Yeah. I mean, the humans deck has fallen off a little bit, but there are just randomly a lot of humans. If you ever do play against humans, though, you minus their creatures and your protection from human. It's just rough. We don't talk about it. So you see Waker Waves. Now, does Logan have an endurance in his main deck? Some players do. He does not. He does have 4 Furies, though. So if he can, 2 Furies. So if he can find one of those, we can shoot down the Yawgmoth.
No, I was going to say, is there anything else you can cascade into? Of course, we cannot. That would be like pretty bad.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting deck building choice, is what I would say. I did have a friend get Spell Pierced out of Rhinos once. They like cast Outburst in response to their spell, and then they flipped into Spell Pierce.
You know, at a Legacy tournament, a friend of mine was playing Hypergenesis, and he wanted to give his Force of Wills to somebody else so they could play the deck. So he was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna play Pact of Negation instead of Force of Will." I'm like, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, you might want to rethink that one. As we do see Fury come down, we're gonna start resetting the Undying counters. And we're going to move the counters back and forth and start drawing some cards. But notably, we can't move too much because if we do, we're going to be in a spot where we're lose too much life and die to the big creatures. It looks like what Benjamin's doing is he's actually getting all of his Undying creatures untapped. And we might see like the Strangler guys get sacked to shrink one of Logan's creatures.
Is that Strangler guy, the tapped Strangler guys on top, is that actually tapped or is that like exiled to something?
It is tapped. Yeah, it was from the attack last turn. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like Benjamin's deciding if he wants to sack it and where to put the counter. We might see him sack it and put the counter on something like Grief. That's kind of hard to block due to needing doubles.
All that extra cards.
Okay, it looks like he's going to actually just move the counter back and forth and take some extra cards first.
Oh, yeah, that's the basic mode that the deck operates on, right? You basically keep moving the counter back and forth to draw extra cards. But as you mentioned, you lose life every single time. Yeah,
and Logan, Logan still has his mana up. We're pretty close to Elephant mana. And the Elephant
can you please say that again?
Elephant. That's the name
Elephant
of the card.
No, Elephant mana. Oh, I thought you said like elephant mana, like as if everybody knows, This is like...
no, the elephant. I don't know how you say it. The cyclone friend.
Like once you get to 6 mana, that's elephant mana time. Here we go.
Yeah. Everyone knows that. Don't be cringe about it. Be cool.
Yeah, I mean, with Magic, sometimes you gotta be in the know about certain insider jokes, like or linger.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Both players seem to be like somewhat in the tank. Like, is it still on Benjamin right now?
It's still on the Fury, yeah. So Benjamin is just decided to ping pong back and forth. Benjamin has Orcish Bowmaster in his hand. Am I crazy? Is that the card I just saw? Maybe I just missed it.
He's got a 1-off, so it might actually be.
I mean, that's 2 blockers. Unironically, kind of matters.
As we wait, I'm already like hitting up nerdrichgaming.com and putting that Yawgmoth deck into my shopping basket. Seriously, like this deck, I want to play this so badly. How is this not the coolest deck in the fall? Like, tell me one deck that's cooler than Yawgmoth. Oh, well, I guess Living End. Apparently, at least for the first game.
I don't know who won.
Pretty close.
I'm gonna keep it a buck. We're coming back to the booth. Somebody won. Unsure who. I have no idea.
That maybe they agreed on a draw.
Yeah, maybe they agreed on a draw. I hadn't thought about that one.
I mean, in chess, it's pretty common.
Yeah, I think.
No, but seriously, like, do you think Yawgmoth won? Like, I mean, Yawgmoth needed to stabilize first, so I can imagine a situation where Yawgmoth stabilizes, what wins, like maybe because of all of the living ends are gone. But then you mentioned that like Logan is able to hardcast stuff. So I can only really see Logan winning.
I think Logan won. I think what happened is Benjamin took a little chance and like was like, I'll just draw a bunch of cards now and hope it works out. And it just didn't. And then they conceded. But I'm not positive. Maybe we can pull up our sideboards and we can see what's going on there. We'll try and figure out here in a second. Julian, you've been liking Yawgmoth a little bit. Is anything jumping out to you? Because to me, I'm kind of just seeing endurances and maybe this like discard spells and a Shieldred. Who knows?
Oh, dude, I want the Metamorph to copy the elephant. We need elephant parity. No, seriously. Like, endurance is very much, that's basically everything you want in a card. Other than that, what does crime punishment do for us? Not really. Like, we can't really pay any. No, that wouldn't do it. But Shieldred technically, because they cycle so much, but it's 4 mana, so it's like, I mean, you can get it on the 3rd turn. Not too sure. Like, it's probably too late to do what it's supposed to. Yeah, it's basically endurance, right? Maybe Thoughtseize is like a losing battle, kind of. I'm really only on endurance. How about you? Or are you still there? Or am I still there?
Hello.
Here we go.
I disconnected for a second. I don't know what happened there, but I could hear you.
I can hear you again.
All right, good, great. I don't know what happened there for a second, but we're good. I'm back. Endurance, I like. I think you might want some Thoughtseizes just because you want to maybe break things up a little bit, because like they do need to have the correct card. I think it really depends on how you want to play your game. I think Orcish Bowmaster doesn't seem particularly great here. Viscera Seer doesn't seem particularly great. That's 2, and then it kind of depends on like how you feel about your other cards. But I'm not really vibing with anything else here from Benjamin.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, you were probably like shocked by my expert analysis of bringing in endurance in this matchup. That's why you immediately disconnected.
I thought it was
like
so
he can
good.
do it on his own.
Yeah, I was running to your Patreon. I was like, let's get over there.
Oh, you're the one that's subscribed. That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, the Thoughtseize, it felt like to me like a little bit of a losing battle if you try to fight over like the Cascade spells, like the Shardless Agents and stuff. But I guess you can also like hit sideboard cards that Logan might be able to bring in. So especially if you have stuff to take out, as you mentioned, then those are certainly like cards you can bring in.
100%. Yeah, I think having a couple is fine just because you are a combo deck. It is sort of a losing battle, but sometimes you just need a little bit of time. Let's check out the Living End sideboard real quick here before our players are ready for game number 2. Living End is going to have endurances, which can be really nice for, we saw at the beginning of the game, Benjamin just moved to discard. That sort of thing can happen. We also have Leyline of the Void. That stops the combo. I think those are the biggest ones. And there's nothing else we're super happy about for this matchup.
Yeah, nothing that really jumps out at me here. Once again, it's going to be a question of like how much do you want to like trim. I'm actually curious. Like, do you side out Force of Negation? It only hits a couple of spells, but it hits like really important spells.
I imagine those would be the ones I do hit. I take out just because, like you said, they hit a couple things, but they don't hit enough, in my opinion, to really be worth the slots when you have this many good cards, right? If we didn't have like 5 cards that sort of stop the Yawgmoth deck from working, then I might be like, okay, let's leave some Force Negation in and let's get a little lucky. But I think the rest of our deck is just so good that we should just try to be as efficient as possible.
And this way, you basically you rule out that scenario where you have like 1 Force of Negation, your opening hand, draw a second one, and like you never does something, and you feel like, oh, dude, I could have won this game. Just like 1 more card. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, and also, Logan on a really interesting build here. Only 3 Force Negations. That's a card we typically see 4 of. Only 3 Living Ends in the main. None in the sideboard. Typically, a thing we see multiple of. So a lot of different things going on there.
Hey, excited to see how this is going to work out.
Yes. All right. So with time in the round, we're just going to hop into game 3 because this was our time shifted match. I know our first game went kind of quickly there with Nova and Connor, but we're going to hop in live. So we'll do our best to fill you up the speed on what's happening. I don't know what the state of the game is. I'll find out when you find out.
So yeah, Benjamin obviously must have won the second game, assuming we're going to a third game here. That puts Logan on the play here. They're shuffling up. Who do you like here? You, as a non-Yawgmoth future Yawgmoth expert person, I would think Yawgmoth would be like pretty well positioned, but help me out, Mason. How does it work?
Yeah, I think Yawgmoth's pretty well positioned. I've been playing a lot of this Living End deck on Magic Online and streaming it. It's been really good. So I'm kind of biased there, but I do think the Yawgmoth player is favored. Just 4 endurances, getting on the board early, and then has a bunch of tutors for the endurances, makes you have to kind of Living End once or twice, and you have to rebuild too. It's not like counter spells, right? When you counter spell a Living End, you still have your graveyard. In this matchup, when you're endurancing, the Living End just gets nothing, and you have to kind of go again and rebuild, which is a whole lot to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's see. Both players sitting on 7, maybe. What are we seeing there in Benjamin's hand? We see a Geist. We see, I think I saw an Endurance. We see the Vizier.
And an Ignoble Hierarch.
Oh, yeah. Logan going down to 6.
Yep.
Is there ever a time, when Living End actually has like something like a transformational sideboard? I don't remember ever seeing it because there's like too many dead cards in the main deck. Or is there any way to like, juke out your opponent?
All right, so I have one that's done something once before, and I have a theoretical thing I always talk about. So number one, they've done before. I've seen players sideboard in Crashing Footfalls. So basically, they bring in the Rhinos, and they sideboard. Your opponent has all the hard graveyard hate, and then they lose, right? This was an idea when players were playing a lot of Rest in Pieces to beat you, and it was like, haha, idiot, I have Rhinos, So that was kind of the idea. And then Inevitable Betrayal is a card that players have tried, and I sort of think about a lot, where it is essentially bribery as a cascade spell. And that is really strong in some of the Reanimate decks, where you could,
totally.
Go and do that. As we are going to see Street Wraith pitch to the Grief here.
When you mulligan on 6 to 6 on the play, and then your first in play is Grief, it doesn't feel great, honestly.
Yeah, it's not great, but catching the Endurance here is great.
But we got Mr. MVP Strangleroot guys already steal a game like in the previous round.
True.
Let's see if we're gonna have a second one. This one's gonna come with double Exalted eventually. Oh, I love these Ignoble Hierarchs, by the way. Old Frame, yes, please sign me up. Old Frame Noble Hierarch, my favorite card of all time. Ignoble Hierarch, I'm paying a lot of respect to that card.
Yeah, Noble Hierarch is great. I love that card.
The host is going to play out from Benjamin's side here. We're going to make a Hierarch on the first turn. Then assuming we don't find another land, I guess on the second turn we could like make another Hierarch and a Young Wolf or something. And if we find a land, we can actually like get the Strangleroot guys down. I don't hate that. What's the Vizier going to do in that matchup?
Vizier is kind of just a combo piece. That's something that whenever you put a -1/-1 counter on something, you make a snake. And essentially you can put a counter on something, make a snake, sack the snake, put a counter, and just start shooting down things and drawing cards. You can also use it with your Undying creatures to ping pong back and forth. So it's kind of a turbo card. And something we're going to see Benjamin sort of use to mitigate his combo. So if you're thinking at it from Benjamin's perspective, he has basically 3 combo enablers and just needs the Yawgmoth. And you're seeing Logan take the land instead of the Endurance. Might mean Logan has some answer to an Endurance
Fury,
later
maybe?
on.
Maybe that's going to be a Fury. Like I could like seeing Benjamin this Monolite. Maybe on the other hand, like that's still a really bad 2-for-1 when you think about it. Or maybe it's just like, I don't know. Like actually, if you had Fury, you would probably like let Benjamin keep both Hierarchs, right? And then try to get like a better exchange on that.
Yeah, I think if you had Fury, you would just take the Endurance and just be like, all right, goodbye, elves. You're dead.
Yeah. Knock yourself out with like 0-1s. It's fine. I got you covered.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Logan's trying to hope Benjamin dumps his hand and then he can sneak underneath the Endurance. But he might just have another Grief. That's sort of the thing that jumps out to me. It's like, okay, he's got another Grief and he's willing to let Benjamin Grief the Grief. Or Endurance the Grief if he wants to pitch the cards.
Yeah, but that puts him at like 2 cards in hand. Like if he has another Grief. I mean, I know the cards in the graveyard, they kinda can count as cards in your hand once you get to Outburst, to Living End. But I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's just very interesting. Logan's got some plan though, because you saw him tank on it for a while. As we do see, Ignoble Hierarch cast the Geist and hit for 3.
Yeah. He found the land. Wolf coming down. And Logan's just sitting here, probably like fetching another Shockland tapped, or is there a Triumph on the deck? I actually don't know.
Not in Living End, not yet.
On Living End, okay.
Yeah, just because you need the mana untapped in the early turn, so it's hard to take the turn off. Yeah,
that's true. I'm actually really excited now because like Logan prepared for this, right? Logan knew that Benjamin's turn is probably going to look like that, and that he is still going to sit in the Endurance. So right now, like even Fury is not too great in the spot, right?
Yeah, Fury is just super awkward, right? Like the Undying creatures will just come back. Now, if you cast the Living End, they will be sacrificed with the counter on them, and they won't come back again, which is good. But there's a lot of awkwardness sort of going on here.
Yeah, that's why it feels like this turn is really going to tell us everything about what Logan wants to do. Please don't like just pass the turn, because then we actually don't know.
Yeah, if he's going to do it, he needs to do it now when the Endurance has to be pitch cast, so that Benjamin is in a much worse spot.
Is that a Shardless Agent?
This is a Shardless Agent. Oh, nice. Top
Okay.
one.
Very top.
Yeah, and see, if Benjamin here, he can invoke Endurance, and if he has the cards, he'll have his Wolf, his Geist, his Endurance, and another Hierarch back. But it looks like he doesn't have the green card to pitch. So Logan's plan worked out. I was trying to saying, hey, Benjamin, I don't think you can do it in time. And then now we get to Grief again. And Benjamin's hand is, oh, it's Hapatra. Yeah, he had Hapatra.
I mean, you say Logan's plan worked out, but honestly, it doesn't really feel like a plan that worked out. It doesn't look too exciting to me.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot. Maybe Logan was hoping to hit like a couple 1-mana cyclers. If we had like an elephant in here, that'd be pretty good. But it is very awkward at the moment.
Okay, so from Benjamin's side, like, you feel okay about this, right?
Yeah, I'm Benjamin. I think this is why Benjamin let the endurance sort of happen, or the thing happen anyways, and get the endurance taken. Even though it would have been fine to the endurance and play to attack. I think he was just like, yeah, I don't really care. And now if you're living it again, I'll have these in the yard. Hapatra is being played.
So chat is asking why there's the Hierarch in play, because another Hierarch was in the graveyard. That was the one that was discarded to Grief. That's why they basically exchanged those two.
Yeah, they kept it the same. As we see Subtlety. And maybe that's what Logan was going for there. As we see Benjamin sort of tanking here, we're happy to have all of y'all with us. Make sure to click the follow button. We're in round 5 of 9 today. We're also going to be playing our first round of top 8. So click that follow button. That way you don't miss anything going on today. And then tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Central is when we'll start our semi-finals with Julian.
That's how it works, right? When you put Yawgmoth on stream every single round, that's how you get like over 1,000 viewers. Everybody, this is going to be the Yawgmoth Rage series. I don't know, like we're really trying to like get me into the deck, and every time I'm seeing this, I feel like this is the future of Modern. This is my future. I'm fully going to commit to that.
You're just logging and yogging over here. You just can't get enough.
Yeah, exactly. You know how I work, man. Okay, so we're gonna go for the beatdown. Stringer guys getting in there. And I mean, Logan is down to, I guess, 10 by this. Actually, 9 because of the Exalted trigger. Yeah, this is a race that Logan is not winning. That's why what I was saying, right? But when you mentioned like his plan worked out, I mean, yeah. Let's see. Maybe there's gonna be another plan. Ideally, it's hard to say. I guess ideally you just want another living end here.
Yeah, I think you want to just draw like 3 cyclers in a row into living end and then trade. Like just block and kill something, save some life, and just be like, all right, I've got the same things I had before with, more power now. If you just cycle, and then find elephant and then rip the Cascader, that's probably good enough.
Yeah. Even if we don't find the cycler, like Logan will soon find himself in a position where he literally needs to Wrath Benjamin's board or just like straight up lose the game. And I mean, not to forget, Benjamin's also drawing cards every turn, right? He can also just like rip something like extra endurances, Yawgmoth, what have you, to just like try to piece something together that goes beyond the advantage that he already has on the board. Oh, Benjamin not too happy, like with the land he played, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, he seems upset. Maybe he's just drawing a bunch of lands. I'm unsure. Speaking of Yawgmoth, by the way, I know a lot of the pros, like Reed Duke is a big Yawgmoth fan. And they're getting ready for Lord of the Rings. So this deck might even get some more innovations, Julian.
Hit me. What's the best stuff that we can actually get here other than the halfling?
I don't know. That's the first thing to figure out. I'm not Reed Duke. I just know they're excited by it. They were in the
Wait, I was promised that I get to commentate of like your Reed Duke level of play.
Yeah, Reed, if you want to hop up and chat and let the people know, I'm sure you're here. We're happy to see your tech as Yawgmoth on the quarter calling, and we're in the combo time. We're gonna start drawing cards. And you see Logan started shaking his head. How did it come to this?
I was like, I did not sign up to this. People told me I should living end. I did. No payoff. I mean, that's how it goes sometimes, right? We already mentioned that on first turn, Logan mulligan to 6 and had a Grief that didn't really like do the greatest of stuff. Like in the end, he actually managed to play the game in a way that the endurance didn't do anything. So I mean, taking the Hierarch kind of worked out, but then he was solo on cards. He just like didn't have anything. Like even if you get one cycler, right? Sometimes you can string them together, get a bunch of cyclers, but you need something to get the I guess chain going.
Yeah, I agree. I think what happened, and my sort of maybe feedback looking back on this, I think you said too, is like we did the thing, but our thing wasn't a winning line, right? And we probably should have just taken endurance and just been like, listen, I'm going to sit here, try and draw a bunch of cyclers and just try and put a bunch of power. You can put some stuff in play and I'll wrath, you know? I think that was probably the line that Logan had to take, something along those lines, as we are seeing the ping-ponging back and forth.
Yeah. Now we basically assembled Yawgmoth bargain, right?
Yes. Yeah. This is a bargain of a deal too. And you know, with the halfling in play up top, we're just going off. This is really a halfling deck when you get down to it. It's got 5 halflings. That's the most of any modern deck.
5 halflings, that's like 2.5 fullings. Worst joke on the stream tonight, thus far.
Yeah. Thus, yeah, there's still plenty of time left, as Fury and Shardless Agent are the things. I have to imagine, I'm no expert, I assume we take the Shardless since the Fury is forever away. And then we quarter calling, get the Blood Artist. You don't need to stay up till 2 a.m. learning some Samwise combos here. You just get Blood Artist and you just start sacking. And that moves Benjamin on to 5-0. So congratulations to Benjamin there. Logan's still very much live for our top 8. 4 rounds left. Easily can rattle off and make the top 8.
Dude, such an amazing deck. Like, I could keep watching this all day. I already saw several people in chat literally saying they tuned in literally for Yawgmoth. So maybe, you know, when you play it out, I might be asleep once the tournament ends. But thus far, amazing decks, good magic, and we've even seen the Born the Ring in action, right?
Yeah, we saw almost all the cards that people are excited about. I think Stern Scolding and Orcish Bowmaster are the only ones we haven't seen really cast, but a lot of really exciting stuff. Unfortunately, that is going to do it for Julian and I today. We're going to have Dom Harvey and Doomwake hop into the booth and take you home. Julian, it was great to work with you today, and thank you, chat, for hanging out with us. We have some more magic coming for you soon.
Thank you, Mason. Everybody, have a good time. Hit that follow button and stay tuned. We're going to be back soon.